Tonight, a CBC investigation after a Saskatchewan man was charged with 8 crimes related to sexual abuse in a Hepburn group home. Also,
in no way have I ever met anybody that wants to be homeless.
Outrage over Regina City Councilor's comments that some Indigenous people want to be homeless. Plus, a little goodwill. We find out more about Saskatchewan land purchased with donated SGI rebate checks.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It is Wednesday, June 22nd, and the CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. Good evening, and thank you for joining us. We begin tonight with an update on a series of crashes that injured a little boy in northwest Regina yesterday. A 47-year-old man is now facing drunk driving charges. This is where the truck finally stopped, hitting a house on Dunsmore Drive in Wallshakers. But before that, police say the driver hit several parked cars, a 7-year-old boy, and then 2 fences. It all happened just after 8:30 in the morning. The driver is charged with dangerous operation of a vehicle causing bodily harm and impaired driving causing bodily harm. The little boy is still in the hospital with serious injuries. The driver was remanded into custody and will stay there until he makes his first court appearance. The date for that is not yet set. The school year is wrapping up and money is tight for division. Some have already announced job cuts to balance the books. It's prompting some to question where the province is spending its education dollars. As Jesse Anton reports, LGBTQ advocates are criticizing the government for funding an independent school in Saskatoon that is run by a church with homophobic policies.
Had a really strong personal reaction to this.
Dr. Tamara Hintz, a child psychiatrist in Saskatoon, had just taken in the city's Pride Parade with her kids when she saw outrage begin on social media. A local political blogger calling out the Saskatchewan government for funding an independent religious school run by a church with homophobic policies. Dr. Hintz is concerned about schools like Westgate Heights Academy in Saskatoon. It's run by the Alliance Church, and that church's policy equates homosexuality with crimes like fraud or sexual assault. And Hintz says it's unacceptable. Statistics show 50% of LGBTQ kids are bullied and far more likely to attempt or complete suicide.
I don't even think we can begin to estimate the harm this can cause.
But Westgate's lead pastor and school director tells CBC News this policy about homosexuality only applies to its church members and not the students and teachers at the school. Still, some taxpayers and members of the LGBTQ community question why the government is funding organizations like this to run schools. This fall, the province is planning to give independent and historical schools $17.5 million.
They're allowed their religious beliefs, and that's, a freedom that we have in Canada, absolutely. But you don't get to indoctrinate other people in it, especially with public funding.
Rayleigh Perkins is a teacher in the public system who works hard to create LGBTQ safe spaces.
Hearing those things about you and from your community, I just can't imagine the impact that would have on your physical well-being, your emotional well-being.
What we can say confidently is that schools that receive public funding need to also uphold public values, in particular protecting the human rights of every child, every youth, and every adult that walks in their doors.
The Minister of Education was not made available for an interview, but in a statement to CBC News, the ministry did say that legislation allows families to educate their children as per their conscientious beliefs, and it's up to individual caregivers and parents to determine where their kids go to school. Jesse Anton, CBC News, Regina.
A Regina City Councilor's comments that some Indigenous people want to be homeless have sparked outrage. Councilor Regina Shaw raised the issue during a City Council meeting on ending homelessness. Jennifer Francis reports.
I heard this once by an Indigenous person.
At a council meeting on ending homelessness, Councilor Regina Shaw asked the head of the Phoenix Residential Society, which helps house homeless people, if it's true that some Indigenous people don't want homes. Sheila Wignes-Padon responded that some Indigenous people don't want anything imposed on them by settlers and may feel more comfortable moving around.
So in saying that just verifies what she said, that there always will be people that are quote unquote homeless in the Indigenous culture because of what they prefer through the media. Is that correct?
Yeah, I would say it would be.
Indigenous activist Kale McKellen spoke out against Shaw's comment during her own presentation to council. She says Shaw's comments were gross and contribute to stigma against Indigenous people who are homeless.
I think that it's a really easy way for Councillor Shaw and other city officials to bounce the blame off themselves and say this is somebody's decision, this is their own choice, we're granting them like what they want.
Housing advocate Shiloh Stevenson was also present during the council meeting.
We are nomadic people. We travel around, we move around, but in no way have I ever met anybody that wants to be homeless.
As for why she asked the question, Shaw says she was seeking expert advice to find solutions.
If they don't want a home, then what can we do for them? What is their needs? The people that are leading this and doing this work every single day are the experts. So my question was, this is what I've heard, how can we address this issue?
Advocates say Shaw's question would have been better answered by an Indigenous person. Councillor Shaw says she was not paying attention to skin color. She says she did not mean harm by her comments and does not feel a need to apologize. Jennifer Francis, CBC News, Regina.
A new conservation project was unveiled in southern Saskatchewan today, and it was made possible in part using money raised from SGI rebate checks issued last year. The Lone Tree Lake Conservation Area is 629 hectares of endangered grassland and wetlands near the U.S. border. The land was purchased from a local rancher. Last year, SGI issued rebate checks of about $285. A Facebook group called Field of Dreams encouraged people to donate the money to Nature Conservancy Canada. 400 people did so, raising $103,000. Other donors and government pitched in the rest to cover the $1 million price tag.
When the SGI rebate checks were announced, I thought to myself, for some people, obviously they're gonna need that money to make ends meet. But for some of us, an unexpected $285 could really be spent on a nice meal or some other frivolous thing. And I thought, wouldn't it be great if we pooled our money together and left a lasting legacy for all of Saskatchewan to benefit from? It's an exciting time where people came together from all walks of life and all political stripes, and we just got together and leaving a lasting legacy. And boy, that feels good. It's that feeling you get when you plant a tree or save an important water source, or in this case, we're protecting the grasslands, a piece of the prairie.
The Roughriders left today for Montreal, where they will play the Alouettes tomorrow night. One thing the coach hopes they left behind, a lack of discipline. Even though they won the game in Edmonton, the Riders were flagged for 14 penalties. Many were of the after the whistle variety, and 5 of them were misconduct penalties, 2 for linebacker Derek Moncrief after 1 play. This year in the CFL, it is 2 and out. He was ejected from the game in the third quarter.
Just a little friendly competition out there. The game of football, man, it can be up and down, you know what I mean? But I got to be a better player for my team to finish the game.
I told them we're not going to go where we want to if we can't control ourselves. We got to be mentally a lot tougher, and we've got to resist the urge to talk when we know what's coming, and we've got to understand when the refs have had enough.
Despite their knack for penalties, the Riders take a 2-0 record to Montreal to face the winless Alouettes. A funeral was held today for a champion powwow singer from Cody First Nation. 34-year-old Nathan Rikishi Pelly died Sunday after battling liver and kidney failure. His brother Dallas Pelly says Nathan learned to drum when he was 2 and always dreamed of singing. He was open about his struggles with drug and alcohol abuse, but always found joy in music. He became a 3-time world champion powwow singer and collaborated on 20 albums.
He truly was a world champion, and that's just who he was. His legacy was his gift was his music, and his music was his healing to us. And so, that good medicine that he gave across Turtle Island, that's just who he was and what he gifted to us on his time on Earth.
The Pelly families say they've received condolences from the powwow community across North America. To coincide with Indigenous History Month and Indigenous Peoples Day, Saskatoon Transit has unveiled its 4th bus shelter displaying Indigenous artwork. This year's shelter on Confederation Drive was created through a collaboration between the Saskatoon Survivors Circle and Indigenous artist Justine Teeny Stillborn. While the artwork captures reflections of the past, she also intended to capture hope for the future. Saskatoon Transit says the shelters are part of their commitment to truth and reconciliation, specifically call number 79 about commemoration through the arts. We'll be back after the break.
This weather update is brought to you by Capital GMC Buick Cadillac. The exclusive export event is back.
Welcome back. Meteorologist Christy Kleimenhage joins me now for a look at your weather.
And Sam, it has been a very hot day across parts of Saskatchewan, but still some active weather out there. So we're not quite done with all of the interesting weather of the week because it has been a busy one. Here's a look at our temperatures across the board, though. It has been a hot one in the southeast, especially up to close to 30 degrees in Regina right now. Temperatures a little cooler as you head north, as we are seeing some thunderstorm activity rolling through the region. As for our current wind speeds, it has been a breezy day as well as a hot one in southern Saskatchewan. Winds right now gusting to about 45 kilometers per hour in the Queen City, and watch that wind continuing over the next couple of days. It will really roll us into the weekend with strong winds all the way until about Sunday. Now, as for our satellite and radar, it's been a very showery one across much of Alberta, and that weather moving over into Saskatchewan. We are seeing a few cells popping up, including a few severe cells in parts of central Saskatchewan. Taking a closer look, you can see very small single cell thunderstorms, but still packing quite a punch in terms of rainfall, strong winds, and even up to Toonie-sized hail, especially that cell that's just rolled through the Nipawin area. Now, we do have a few watches and warnings in effect for the region. You can see everywhere in yellow in that central Saskatchewan corridor under a severe thunderstorm watch, meaning that you could still see some cells popping up through the rest of the evening. There is still that severe thunderstorm warning for that strong cell just to the northeast of Nipawin. As you see that continuing to roll towards the east, you will continue to see those warnings shift around. But again, biggest threat with that storm is strong winds up to about Toonie-sized hail and very heavy downpours as well. Now, it's all thanks to a weak low pressure system that's been sitting over Saskatchewan today. That's scooting out in a hurry overnight, but in behind it, another system rolling through. Now, this will bring quite the risk of thunderstorm activity for tomorrow and then heavy rainfall as we get into the weekend. So as for our thunderstorm risk tomorrow, even more severe cells possible in that same corridor of central Saskatchewan, but looking at the risk of a little bit of rotation. So the chance of some tornadic activity in that area in red. Of course, not every storm will produce a tornado, but there is that risk into the day tomorrow. As you make your way into the end of the week, our biggest risk changes to rainfall. Friday, looking to see that heavy rainfall again in that same corridor of central Saskatchewan, up to about 40 to 50 millimeters in areas like Meadow Lake and Prince Albert. As for the next 7 days, if you're in Regina, it is going to be another hot one tomorrow, 31 degrees, winds gusting to about 50 kilometers per hour, showery weather to take you into the start of the weekend, and then you're going to start to see things clearing out through your Monday, and again, hot weather returning by the end of the weekend as well. Into Saskatoon for the day tomorrow. It looks like you will see that risk of a thunderstorm. Even could see a severe cell rolling through, especially north of the city. 25 degrees for your high. Temperatures really cutting down as in the back end of that system as that rain rolls in. Some windy weather as well for your Friday, 19 degrees there. Cool temperatures for the beginning of the weekend, but then again, rebounding a little bit by the end, Sam. So it is going to be a warmer end of the weekend if you do have any outdoor plans. Maybe save it for your Sunday when things warm up and clear out a bit.
Good advice. Thanks, Christy.
You're welcome.
Well, imagine being blind, autistic, having cerebral palsy, and at the same time being the victim of sexual assault.
Coming up, a CBC investigation after a Saskatchewan man was charged with 8 crimes related to sexual abuse. Brent Gabona worked at a group home in Hepburn for severely disabled individuals. He allegedly assaulted a number of residents over a 14-year period. Today, families and others are urging the RCMP to dig deeper. We'll have that story after the break. A Saskatchewan man is accused of preying on severely disabled adults who were in his care at a group home, specifically targeting those who can't speak. Last month, Brent Gabona was charged with 8 crimes related to sexual abuse. Today, families of some current and former residents say the police investigation ended too soon and failed to identify other potential victims. As Jorge Barrera shows us, there's another twist to this story.
This ranch has been our refuge.
When COVID-19 hit, Rick Boguski brought his brother Daryl here to care for him.
Hey, mister.
Daryl is blind and has cerebral palsy. He can't speak.
I really thought that we were going to be happy here.
But then in April, the RCMP phoned.
Well, first of all, they wanted to confirm that Daryl had been in Shepherd's Villa in Hepburn, Saskatchewan.
The RCMP told Rick his brother was one of 5 sexual assault victims.
And it was like a cannon went off in my head.
The abuse allegedly happened between 1992 and 2006 at the Shepherd's Villa group home for disabled individuals. This is Brent Gabona, a former worker who left the villa in 2009. He's facing 8 sex abuse-related charges. None of them have been proven in court.
Well, imagine being blind, autistic, having cerebral palsy, and at the same time being the victim of sexual assault.
Boguski says the RCMP's 3.5-week investigation only scratched the surface of what may have really happened.
Really, I can think of 8 potential victims right now off the top of my head. 8 potential victims, and yet you have a police investigation that's identifying 5. I will not rest until all the evidence is in and all the victims are accounted for.
Hello.
Yes, is this Jorge?
Speaking.
Yes, this is Mr. Gabona returning your call.
After repeated attempts to reach him, Brent Gabona called us back. We asked him if there were more victims. Is it more than 5?
Sorry, I can't respond to that at this point. I've just caused enough already and I don't want to cause any more.
Yeah, okay. Here's something that's rather interesting too.
Derek Hawkins lived in the room next to Daryl Boguski. Staff logs show their son grew increasingly violent while under Gabona's care. And now they wonder if their son was also a possible victim, perhaps an explanation for his sudden turn in behavior.
From July of 2004, he had 1 incident. And after that, it was August of 2004, he had 9 incidents. November, he had 12 incidents. He had ripped all the gyprock off his walls with his bare hands. And they told it, when they called, they told us that if we didn't come and get him immediately, they would be phoning RCMP to take him to the psych ward.
Derek was discharged from the villa because of his violence. He died in 2011 from kidney failure. But when the Hawkins learned Gabona was facing sexual assault charges, they asked the RCMP to include their son in the investigation.
We were point blank told that he was not a victim, simply because he was verbal.
The words were, he is not a victim. The accused
only assaulted non-verbal. That was on his confession.
Only on his word.
Why anybody would believe that is beyond me.
Gabona told us soul searching led him to the RCMP.
I understand that your family's a Christian family, or you go to church, and I was just wondering if that played a role in your decision to come forward.
Definitely had something to do with it.
it was just a personal conviction that you felt you had to contact the police yourself?
Gabona's next court appearance is scheduled for July.
Okay.
Brent was convicted, if you will, to own his mistakes.
Gabona's pastor at a Waldheim, Saskatchewan church says Gabona told him God, through the Bible, triggered his conscience.
Brent had told me after the fact that, and this was in the hands of the RCMP at that point.
Jacqueline Forbes' brother, Dean, was also in Gabona's care for about 3 years. He still lives in the group home today.
These people are vulnerable, who we have a duty to protect and provide safety and care and love. They deserve the justice out of this.
Forbes says police should review all incident records from the group home and call on a clinical psychologist to help interview anyone who was in Gabona's care.
They at least deserve to be listened to, even if they can't speak.
The RCMP sent a statement to CBC News saying there was no investigational need for a psychologist, and officers obtained all available evidence from the time period. The current executive director of Shepherd's Villa declined comment.
Okay, I gotcha. Go for a little drive and we'll head down to the creek, okay?
On the ranch, Rick Boguski is still coming to terms with what happened to his brother. He says it forever changed Daryl.
Now I've learned that I've got to warn Daryl that I'm coming toward him to give him that hug.
Hey, mister, we're gonna go and we're gonna sit by the creek.
But still he believes in nature's power to heal.
We walk down to the creek. Sometimes we've got country music playing in the background in the car. Sometimes it's just nature. We just chill out. I hold his hand. Daryl is an angel on earth.
An angel who police say went through hell. Jorge Barrera, CBC News, Lundbreck, Alberta.
CBC News also reached out to the Ministry of Social Services in Saskatchewan. The government would not provide comment on the case, but said it is committed to protecting vulnerable individuals. And Christy is back with one last look at tonight's weather.
And continuing to see some clear weather across southern Saskatchewan, Sam, but a little more stormy tonight further north. Here's a look outside at Regina tonight at midnight, 18 degrees, relatively clear conditions. By tomorrow morning, hanging onto the sunshine, temperatures will be on the rise again. Temperatures up to 20 degrees by 8 a.m. and a little breezy on and off through the day. In Saskatoon, you are going to see the risk of some showers or even a thunderstorm tonight, 16 degrees at midnight. By tomorrow morning, you're looking at a little more of that clear weather. Again, the risk of thunderstorm activity in the afternoon, but 16 degrees at 8 a.m. Then you'll see again some of that instability working its way back in, Sam. So still the chance of some severe weather before the week is out.
All right, thanks, Christy. And that's it for us tonight. For news anytime, you can head to our website or the CBC Saskatchewan YouTube channel. Glenn Reed will be back with more local news at 11. We're back tomorrow at 6. Thank you so much for watching and have a great night.